It's hard to teach when you have to pay the bills, or when you can't pay the bills. By Pat McGrory, read by Bill Inman, Pat McGrory, as told to Matt C. Bloom. I came home and my wife was crying. It was September 2017. My wife had been going over our budget, which was always tight, and reading the story in the paper about how we were all going to have to pay back 2 years' worth of back insurance premiums for the whole year. I told her, it'll hurt, but we'll get through it. Then she decided to post on Facebook about how hard it was on our family budget. And I was like, oh, whoa, I think that's a little bit too public to be going out with information like that. But then the next day, I went into work. I'd missed the last staff meeting because I was teaching practice. As one of the few male teachers, I coach all the male sports. I found out my boss had told everyone our student learning objectives, or SLOs, had been too low. Now we need to hit 70% to be considered effective. 70%. Okay, let me explain. There are 2 SLOs we need to hit. One is a measurement of the whole class, and one is a measurement of a single group of about 6 kids. 70% proficiency doesn't seem so bad, right? You're thinking, that's a C. All right. That doesn't seem too tough. But then when you consider that the statewide average for ISTEP is 51%. I had remained stalwart through all the contract disputes and the state takeover turmoil. I had remained committed to my community and the children that are its future, even though I hadn't had a raise in the whole time I'd been there. And it didn't seem like that was going to change anytime soon. I'd even felt pretty solid through the idea that I would have to pay back insurance premiums for the past 2 years. For some reason, the SLOs felt like the straw that broke the camel's back. That was a rough day, but I didn't quit. I have too many reasons to stay, including why I started in the first place. About 10 years ago, my wife and I moved into the South Central neighborhood to join the Ministry of Urban Light Community Church as residents. We made a commitment right then to stay long enough to help raise up the next generation of leaders from the south side of Muncie. We've had 2 kids here. I taught Sunday school. I got frustrated because half an hour a week with these kids just wasn't enough time to feel like I was really making a difference. So I asked God several times if he wanted me to go back to school and become a teacher. Eventually, he said yes. After getting my degree from Ball State and after getting my degree at Ball State, teaching for our local schools just seemed to fit. I already knew a lot of the teachers from my practicum work. Besides, I was committed to the South Side. So I went to work at a local elementary school. I'm in my 5th year. I love my job. I work with some amazing teachers doing awesome work. They're doing such amazing things for our students. There's a ton of good in our schools to talk about, but we don't talk about it because we're just under so much pressure. The thing I hear most often from teachers, especially those who've been teaching for 25 or 30 years, is that behaviors are worse than ever before. Classroom management is stressful for everybody. You've got little Jimmy over here who can hardly speak or write his name. still poops his pants. You want to help Jimmy, but you get these two other kids defying you, trying to embarrass you, who get all the other kids worked up. They feed off that negative energy. Egg it on. You also have content to teach. You want your content to be so engaging that the kids want to learn. That takes a lot of planning. And often, I'm up until midnight or later trying to get it all done. On top of that, you always have to be working toward iStep and iRead, the third grade reading test. You don't have much choice on what to teach. And there's a lot of pressure from above to try to get those benchmarks, which affect your school grades. Drop into all this the stress of struggling to pay your bills. It's crazy to me that I own a house on the south side of Muncie, and I pay like $200 a month for my mortgage. I have no car payments, and even though we live a pretty chaste lifestyle, we're still struggling to get by. We're often waiting on the tax check to make necessary repairs, like fixing the fridge. I feel guilty about even going out with some friends to get a beer. When we hear about other school systems that pay $12,000 more a year, it's hard not to be tempted. Can you imagine $1,000 more a month for a family? Oh man. Teachers try not to let all the pressure about all this stuff affect their students at all. We really love them. And most of the time, we're really good at it. We're only human, though. Sometimes it slips through. My wife had emergency surgery a couple years ago. About that time, two kids came into the class who were emotionally explosive. One would yell at me and set the other one off. I would go home, be a single dad. Well, single parent. My wife was there, was still with me. She just wasn't with me while my wife was recovering. And then I'd try to get all my work done and come to school and get yelled at again. My fuse was so short. I started yelling back. I knew it wasn't the way to handle this. I just didn't have the emotional resources to get out of the power struggle. We don't always see what happens in each other's classrooms. Are the other teachers experiencing a shorter fuse because of financial stress? I don't know. I don't think many would come right out and say it, but I can make the assumption. After my wife posted on Facebook that we were struggling with our insurance payback, I started to feel okay about it because I thought, why not let everybody know that this is hard? It's really hard. A week or so later, Matt Bloom called me. We've been friends and neighbors for years. He told me he'd seen my wife's post and wanted to see what we could do to help teachers. I felt that whatever we did, it shouldn't be so much about alleviating all the financial burdens so much as boosting teacher morale. As an example, I told him the PTO raised money and gave us all $25 gift cards. That was such a gift to us. It means a lot for my colleagues and I to see that the community sees us and supports us. So, Matt recruited some local businesses to help create a website called MuncieLovesTeachers.com, where teachers can upload a little about themselves and people can make donations to help support their families. I think this is great because It fights what I see as the main problem with the schools right now. In fact, I think during the break you can go and learn more about that website right out here. Both inside Muncie Community Schools and outside in the community, we have a public relations problem. Morale is better when teachers feel valued and supported. Part of that means doing a better job marketing all that our schools offer. When you look at programming, our schools are among the best in the area, hands down. I'm teaching an after-school robotics class this year. How cool is that? These elementary school kids are learning programming, problem solving, comparative development. It's awesome. I'll bet a lot of people have no idea that here in Muncie, that's available to low-income urban kids. The Teachers Association, sorry about that, my tongue's tied. The Teachers Association can help with PR too. These days, too many people look at unions and think they're just greedy and they don't really do anything for anybody. I don't think that's true about the teachers' unions. Teachers' unions have two functions. One, and these are important for student success. One is to fight against any policies that make it harder for teachers to educate kids or put too much pressure on them. The second is to protect teachers' wages so the school system can attract the best talent. All that ultimately benefits students. Not enough people understand that. Imagine a school system that the community takes pride in because they're amazed at all the teachers accomplish for their students. Imagine a teachers' association that is recognized as fighting for students and providing best-in-class professional development opportunities for teachers. Imagine a faculty that can focus even more on students, free to teach without fear that they won't be able to pay the bills. I think we can get there. For now, my wife will cry sometimes over the bills and our budget. Our kids will be on reduced lunch, and our school will be known primarily as a school system in crisis. We have some work to do, you and I. All this pressure on teachers to relieve it a bit and to better serve the kids. First, all of us in the community have got to believe that we can do better. I do. Do you?